Have you ever stopped to think that many men who live alone today don't do so by choice or because they love freedom, but because they can no longer connect with real people? And here's the scariest part. They don't even realize that what distanced them from the world wasn't a major heartbreak, a betrayal, or a social failure, but something silent, invisible, and at the same time devastating: pornography addiction. Yes, maybe you've never thought about it that way, or maybe you even believe that male isolation is just a matter of lifestyle, of a more introspective personality, or purely personal preference. But the truth is much deeper, and also much more uncomfortable. The loneliness of many men is not a choice, it's a prison. And the cruelest part of this prison is that it looks like freedom. No, it's not just about emotional neediness, as many like to label it. It's not simply an escape from the frustrations of romantic life. It's not, as some claim, a failure to attract or maintain relationships. It's not just social laziness, nor a conscious decision to not get involved. These explanations are far too shallow and fail to grasp the complexity of what is really happening. What's truly behind the loneliness of many men today is an addiction that numbs them, sabotages their self-esteem, blocks their ability to connect, drains their vital energy, and turns it into a cycle of self-sabotage. Porn addiction is not just a harmless habit, a modern pastime, or a simple relief tool. It is a deep dynamic of emotional, psychological, and even spiritual imprisonment. Pornography creates an illusion of intimacy, but at the same time, it destroys the ability to establish real connections. It offers immediate satisfaction, but it robs the possibility of true pleasure, one built through mutual exchange, vulnerability, and genuine surrender. And maybe this is the hardest part to accept. Many of these men don't even realize they're trapped. Pornography serves such a powerful anesthetic function that it prevents the man from noticing how much he is disconnecting from his own humanity. It offers relief, but never healing. It gives pleasure, but never love. It gives stimulation, but never nourishment. And the man, deceived by this false sense of fulfillment, distances himself more and more from the real world, from people, from relationships, until one day, he simply realizes that he is alone. But he's not alone because he wanted to be. He's alone because he lost the ability to connect. And this deeply unsettles people. It provokes, it irritates, it scares. Because when a man chooses to walk away from a life of addictions and to reconnect with his own essence, he challenges an entire system that profits from his weakness. The pornography industry, which moves billions, feeds precisely on this illusion, that you need it to be satisfied, that you will never be complete, never be enough, unless you consume the products it offers. And when a man decides to break this cycle, he automatically becomes a threat to this system. Moreover, this decision even scares those closest to him because it forces everyone to confront a collective wound we prefer to hide: our societal struggle to build true intimacy, to deal with affection, to embrace vulnerability. When someone decides to heal, they inevitably confront the mirror that so many are avoiding. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "It's not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it's because we do not dare that they are difficult." This phrase perfectly sums up what it means to break free from pornography addiction and face loneliness head-on. The man who chooses to abandon the addiction, who chooses to leave behind the false safety of immediate pleasure and accept the challenge of self-knowledge, is, in fact, daring. He is daring to truly live. Daring to expose himself to pain, to emptiness, to insecurity, but also to the possibility of building something authentic, solid, and transformative. But this journey doesn't begin in clarity, doesn't begin with certainty. It begins in collapse. It begins at the moment this man realizes that, despite all the stimulation, despite all the images, despite all the supposed freedom, he is empty. He is anesthetized. He is profoundly unhappy. This is the breaking point. And at that moment, many go into denial, try to reinforce the cycle even more, consuming even more pornography, isolating themselves even further, until the time comes when they can no longer sustain the lie. And then, the fall begins. The recognition that the addiction is no longer a pastime but a prison. The realization that what seemed to bring pleasure is actually stealing energy, vitality, the capacity to love, to trust, and to be known. And once that realization hits, there's no going back. The process of reconstruction begins. This man now needs to learn how to deal with the pain he used to numb. He needs to relearn how to feel, to be aware of his own body, to respect his own time, to rebuild his self-esteem. And this path is not quick, it is not linear, it is not easy. It is a path full of relapses, doubts, long and lonely nights. But it is also a path full of discoveries. Because, along this process, he starts to realize that he can be happy without the dependency, that he can build real relationships, that he can look in the mirror and recognize himself. And who does he become then? A man who no longer needs to hide. Who no longer needs to pretend that everything is fine while living an empty life. A man who consciously chooses freedom. Not the illusory freedom of pornography, but the real freedom to love, to open up, to build. A man with mental strength, with clarity, with purpose. A man who understands that solitude, when chosen, can be a space for growth, but that, when imposed by addiction, is merely a disguised prison. And this transformation is not small. It is revolutionary. Because, by breaking the cycle of addiction, this man is, without realizing it, breaking ancient social patterns, challenging entire systems that profit from his weakness, and inspiring others to do the same. He becomes an example, even without wanting to. He inspires, even without realizing. Other people look at him and think, if he did it, I can do it too. And thus, his personal transformation becomes a social force, a silent yet powerful movement of liberation. Now, I want to talk to you who are listening to me. And you. How many times have you realized that you're using pornography not as entertainment, but as an escape? How many times have you felt that after consuming it, you were emptier than before? How many times have you chosen isolation, thinking it was safer, but deep down knowing it was just fear of exposing yourself? How many times have you felt trapped but didn't know how to get out? This video is an invitation, not to judgment, but to deep reflection. It's an invitation for you to honestly look at your life, your habits, your choices, and ask yourself, are you truly living your freedom, or are you living your prison? Are you building real relationships, or are you hiding behind artificial stimuli? Are you numbing your pain, or are you facing it head-on? I want to leave you with a phrase to reflect on, one I hope will resonate deeply within you. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is not being a slave to what you no longer want. May this phrase stay with you. May it inspire you to reflect, to seek help, to strengthen yourself. And maybe now you're asking yourself, okay, but how do I get out of this cycle? How do I free myself from this addiction and, for real, connect with a woman, with presence, with authenticity, with true intimacy? And I understand you. Because when pornography becomes part of your routine, it doesn't just feel like a habit, it feels like a part of who you are. But it's not. It's not. Pornography does not define you. It has simply filled a space that was left empty, a space you may not have even realized existed. The first step to breaking this cycle is having the courage to look at that emptiness and accept that it exists. Don't try to cover it up, don't try to run away from it, don't try to ignore it. Look at it and accept it. That emptiness is often the absence of connection, of purpose, of meaning. It's the emotional wound you've carried since childhood, it's the frustration you never learned how to process, it's the pain you've hidden beneath compulsive behaviors. And I need to tell you, you will only break free when you stop fighting against the addiction and start looking at its root. After accepting that emptiness, comes the second step, one that's even more challenging, starting to relate to yourself in a different way. Because, listen, maybe you think that what you need first is a woman, a relationship, someone to save you or help you change. But no. First, you need to welcome yourself. To look at yourself with compassion, with patience. To understand that this process isn't about eliminating a behavior overnight, but about transforming your relationship with yourself. The more you accept yourself, the more you'll realize that you don't need to numb yourself. You don't need to hide. And then, when this relationship with yourself starts to change, something very beautiful begins to happen. You begin to make yourself emotionally available to others. Because, think about it, How can you truly have a real relationship with a woman if you can't even have a real relationship with yourself? How can you give yourself, allow yourself to be seen, to be loved, if you spend most of your time hiding behind screens, behind easy stimuli, behind fantasies that keep you from showing up as you are? That's why the path to a healthy relationship with a woman starts within you. It starts with small actions, like respecting your own limits, developing new habits, learning how to deal with boredom, with frustration, with anxiety, without automatically turning to pornography as an escape. It starts with practicing presence, being present with yourself, with your emotions, with your thoughts, with your body. And I know, maybe you feel like you're too far from that you're too lost, too addicted, too far from the possibility of having a healthy relationship. But you're not. You're never too far gone. It's always possible to start over. It's always possible to choose a new path. And as you strengthen this new relationship with yourself, something even more powerful happens. You begin to develop confidence. Confidence in your ability to relate for real. Confidence to look a woman in the eyes, to listen, to share, to open up, to live with vulnerability. Because, deep down, that's what pornography stole from you. The courage to be vulnerable. To show yourself as imperfect. To risk rejection, but still choose to open up. And when you start to rebuild that courage, relationships stop being that threatening place you avoid and become a space for growth, for true pleasure, for deep intimacy. You realize that the sexual satisfaction pornography offered you will never compare to the satisfaction of a real encounter, of a sincere touch, of an emotional connection built with trust and respect. But to get to that point, you also need to open yourself up to help. And here I want to be very clear. You don't need to, and you shouldn't, go through this process alone. Seeking therapy, support groups, mentors, communities that understand the complexity of this addiction and can support you is a fundamental step. Because isolation, the fuel of pornography, only dissipates through connection. And it's through that connection that you will realize you're not the only one going through this, that you're not alone, that there are other men, just like you, who also decided to break this cycle. And look, when you start walking this path, not only does pornography lose its power, but your entire life begins to change. You start feeling more energized, more present, more whole. Your family relationships improve, your productivity increases, your self-esteem strengthens. You begin to walk with more confidence, with more clarity, with more purpose. And yes, you gain the real ability to relate to a woman in a mature, healthy, and genuine way. No longer seeking her as an object of satisfaction, as pornography conditioned you to do, but seeking partnership, exchange, connection. And it's in that connection that you will discover what intimacy really is. Not the one built in seconds with images on a screen, but the one that's built day by day, with trust, with vulnerability, with love. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this. True pleasure is not found in the intensity of the stimulus, but in the depth of the connection. The deeper your bond with yourself, the deeper your bond with a woman will be. And that's the kind of relationship that's worth it. One born from freedom, not from dependency. Born from love, not from neediness. Born from conscious choice, not from unconscious escape. So, take a deep breath right now, and ask yourself an honest question. Am I willing to walk this path? Am I willing to face the discomfort, to come out of the numbness, to open myself up to real love? And if the answer is yes, know that this is the beginning of one of the most important journeys of your life. A journey that isn't easy, but that is, without a doubt, liberating. And I want to remind you, you are not alone. There are thousands of men around the world who have already started this path, who have already broken free from the addiction, who have already rebuilt their capacity to love and be loved. And you can be one of them. If this video made sense to you, if it touched some part inside that you were trying to hide, I ask you, share it. It may be that someone you'd never imagine needs to hear exactly this right now. And remember the phrase I shared with you earlier. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is not being a slave to what you no longer want. Choose your freedom. Choose your life. Choose to allow yourself to love, and to be loved, for real. And, if this video made sense to you, share it. Maybe it can be a light for someone who's still trapped in this cycle without even knowing it. Until next time.